Welcome or welcome back to Resident Ghoul. I'm your Resident Ghoulie. Today's compilations is going to be about solo female travel or female travels and basically why we will always choose the bear because human interaction as a female can be really creepy and a scary event. I do have a few of my own, so if you would like to hear those, just let me know down in the comments. And then if you guys have any of your own personal scary stories, TikToks, anything of those nature that you want to share with me, I will post my email address as well so you can reach out. Anyways, let's just get on to this video since I am talking way too long. And yeah, thanks so much for stopping by. As always, like the original creators, and then please make sure to like, comment, and share this video as well.
Okay, I think I'm finally ready to tell everyone the story time about how our Airbnb that we rented out for my bachelorette was busted in the past for being a trafficking place and what happened in the 3 days of us staying there. So my friends and I decided to book my trip to Erie, PA because we're not too far from there and it worked with all of our schedules, and we found a really perfect Airbnb kind of close to everything that we had planned to do. So it was about 3-ish weeks before the actual trip that my sister-in-law then texted me and said, "Hey, is this the place that we're staying for your bachelorette?" And I kind of took a quick glance at the link that she sent me because I was at work and I couldn't read the whole article. It had said something along the lines of our location, the exact location, and how it got busted in the past for being a place. I had no idea, but our Airbnb that we were staying at actually used to be a massage parlor in the past that also got busted for being a hotspot. Now that was kind of an immediate red flag for me and my sister-in-law. And at this point in time, we didn't know what to do with this information. We didn't want to share it with our girls because I was scared that they were all going to back out. And also I was scared that I was just going to give them a bad vibe of going on that trip in general. So I didn't want to overwhelm them with that random information. So we decided to keep the information between me and my sister-in-law. Now, I don't know if that makes me look like a bad guy, but I was doing it to kind of protect our thoughts going into the trip. And also, what is one to do with that information? It is just a place, and it was renovated and updated to look very beautiful according to the Airbnb pictures. And it also had really good ratings, so I wasn't just going into this blind. Finally, the weekend of my bachelorette trip comes, and we get there, and everything is perfect. It's super, super clean. It's just really pretty all around. Now, the location was a little bit weird. It's exactly where you think a sketchy massage parlor would be, on the side of a road, like a main road. But in terms of location, it was really, really, really close to everything that we were doing for the weekend, like I said. So we decided to stick it out. Now, let me set the scene for the first night that we were staying there because this is where everything went downhill fast. So that very first day, a couple hours after we got settled in, it started downpouring. Downpouring, thunder, lightning, heavy winds, everything. So because of the storms, we decided to just go get dinner that night. And then when we got back, it was still heavily thunderstorming, like a typical horror movie that you would see, that kind of thunderstorm. After dinner, we decided to settle in by playing a round of Uno and some card games. We're all a little bit under the influence, gardening, drinking, you name it. And then my sister-in-law breaks the news about what this place used to be. My girls were definitely a little bit spooked by this information. But the spirits were still high. Everybody was still having a good time when all of a sudden the room goes pitch black. So the power goes out and we're definitely freaked the fuck out. All of us are screaming, not knowing what to do, but also realizing that it was storming very heavily and it wasn't uncommon that the power would go out. After we calmed down a little bit, we decided to just Google that to make sure that it was just a power outage. But then we hear the doors lock. The locks on these doors at this Airbnb were electronic, meaning you could only type in a code to get in and out. Hearing those doors lock was like everybody's heart stopped. We go immediately to check at the front and the back doors, making sure that nobody's there. And of course, there was nobody there. Since the power was out, we realized, okay, there's probably going to be something wrong with these locks because they are ran electronically. We just chalked it up to be something with the power issue, but how weird was it that it happened at that time? We also couldn't even decide if we wanted to keep the doors locked or unlocked for a quick escape or to stay locked in from anybody outside. Now, we are actively contacting the Airbnb host at the time saying, hey, what's going on? Like, what do we do in the outage? Do you have a backup generator? What are we supposed to do in this situation? Because we need power. So it's about 2 a.m. when this happened. So, of course, we're not getting any text responses. We decided to call her twice, and there's no response, which to me is definitely a little bit weird. I would think if I was an Airbnb host, I would leave my ringer on all throughout the night to make sure that nothing bad was happening and that my guests were safe throughout the night. Finally, after about a half an hour, we are calming down just a little bit when a police car pulls up directly in the parking lot of where we're staying. Now, since this used to be a massage parlor, there was 2 parking lots, one in the front and one off to the side. The police car parks in the parking lot off to the side and is directly staring at one of the main windows into one of the main bedrooms. He initially pulls up with his lights on, no sirens, but parks there and then turns his lights off. We all bolt to that fucking window. I'm talking running to that fucking window. When they turned their lights off, we were 100% spooked at this point. We had no fucking clue what was going on. So we stayed there and looked and nothing happened. Until my group of girls and I are split up. And some of them are looking out the front to see the main road, and then others are looking at the side to see this police car. When the girls looking at the road notice a man walk directly in front of our Airbnb. Very slowly, very calmly walking in front. To the normal person, this would be nothing. But to us, it was everything. We were fucking scared. Because it was 2 a.m., literally thunderstorming in a torrential downpour. And this guy's walking slow as all hell past our Airbnb, suspiciously. Just when we thought it was nothing, this guy gets into the cop car. Into the cop car's backseat. We are fucking losing it. Like, we are fucking losing it. We're on the phones with our husbands, our fiancés, our boyfriends, my dad, trying to figure out what the fuck we should do and if we should even call the police. Because the police are at our fucking Airbnb, but what the hell are they doing there? Now, you might be wondering, okay, maybe they're looking to make sure that the traffic lights are okay, that people aren't speeding, but why aren't they facing the highway? They're facing our Airbnb. And who is this guy and why did he get into the cop car at 2 a.m. in front of our Airbnb, looking into our Airbnb? So we wait and we wait and we wait. Another half an hour to 45 minutes goes by when another cop car pulls up, this time with its lights on and facing the road, as a normal cop car probably would do. Then it shortly shuts its lights off, gets out of the car, looks like he's going to talk to whoever's in this other police car, but he doesn't. Couldn't really see what he was doing because he was on the other side of the cop car. He gets out. All we see was his door open. And we couldn't see what happened from there. Now at this point, it's probably about 3:15 a.m. And we start calling hotels around to see if they have power, to see if we can get the fuck out of this Airbnb. We call the hotel. We call a couple bars that were open to see if they have power and see if we can go somewhere else because we felt so fucking unsafe. But none of them had power. And we had warned them that we don't have power and something weird is going on. Just in case. Because the police are at our place and they're not doing anything. Well, actually, like, they were doing stuff, but what were they doing? Then finally, around 3:30 a.m., these cop cars leave. With that person in the back of their car. No lights on, they leave. Okay, now what? We're still vigorously watching out the windows to make sure that nothing else happens. The doors are fully locked at this point. But, like, do we keep them locked? Do we stay locked in here? What do we do? Finally, the power comes back on about 5 a.m. when we all settled down for good and just passed out of exhaustion and anxiety. The next day, something weird happens as well. But that is the majority of the story. If you want a part 2 to what happened the next day, let me know, because our Airbnb host does respond the next day. And I want to know what you guys think of this whole situation first. I'm going to tell you about the time that I went to the Bahamas and I had a really creepy experience. So if you want to hear that, stay here. So I went for a 4-day weekend to the Bahamas with a girlfriend. And so everything was set, right? We were staying at a bungalow in this town in the Bahamas. And everything was fine. It was just the two of us. We got there. People were nice. The vibes were vibing, right? Okay. So the first night, we go out to dinner. Then we get back 11 p.m. back. Okay. We go to sleep. So before this all happened, my friend had a dream the week before we were about to leave. And she had a dream that somebody raided our room while we were there and we had to hide. And I was like, girl, no freaking way. So I went to Amazon and I bought this. It was a door latch and it was a one that I could take with me. So I took it, and the first night I installed it in the room that we were staying at. And so, flash forward again to that first night, they knocked. And for some reason, we were like, get out of here, get out, whatever. I wrote to the lady that was in charge of the place, and I said, hey, I feel so unsafe. What is this? Somebody's trying to get in our room. Okay, so after a few hours, we went back to sleep because they didn't go into our room. Okay, I know. But anyway, it was just the two of us in this small island in the Bahamas. It was scary. And so we go about our day. We are freaked out. We talk to her, and she's really nice, by the way. So it's been a while since 2021 that I went here, and I don't want to say the name of the place because I thought she was really nice, and I don't know. I don't think it was her fault or anything. So I don't want to talk bad about the place. But anyway, so flash forward. The second night, we are very freaked out, but we go to sleep. Nothing happens, or at least we are not awake. We don't hear anything. Okay, so the next day, the second day, there's a cockroach in our room. Yes, there's a cockroach. My friend has a phobia of cockroaches, and I don't like them, but I could tolerate it, and I could smash it. So what I do is I get a towel, I put it on top of the place where it was like a tray. I take it out and I put it outside of our door. Okay, so that's taken care of. Okay, so the third night, we go to sleep and we're like, okay, hopefully nothing happens. We get back around midnight. We never get back too late. But this time we got back a little bit later than usual at midnight. We go to sleep, and then around 3 a.m, they knock on our door. And they say the same thing. Let me in, let me in. So this time I'm totally freaked out because I'm like, the second time they're probably going to try to forcefully get in there. So I call the lady, I call the police. I don't even know the police of the Bahamas. I'm just calling, right? And so after a while, we put the iron, we connect it to the wall. We are freaking out. And so we're just like, okay, oh my God, what do we do? I don't know. I was in REM sleep. So you know how difficult it is when you get awoken from REM sleep? It just messes with you. So anyway, we were there, we woke up and had the iron plugged into the wall. We're like, get out, get the beep out. I was going off. And so I wrote to the embassy that night because we ended up hearing sirens, and luckily they didn't go into our room, but nobody checked on us, nothing. The next day, I go out of the room, and remember that cockroach towel that I had put to kill the cockroach? I look at it, and the towel, the white towel, has a boot print on it. Okay? And so I was like, well, there it is. It wasn't a ghost.
there is a boot print on that towel, meaning they're most likely a man. I'm not trying to say it was a man, but it was a big boot, okay? So that happened, and then we're like, oh my freaking, like, I cannot believe this. Like, we came here for a vacation, and now we feel really unsafe. Luckily, we had the latch. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could have busted that, right? Anyway, I write to the embassy, and I'm going to insert the letter. And so I write to them, and I speak to the lady. She gives us some money back for our stay and our troubles, and we're like, okay, thank you. But anyway, I just want to hear if anybody has had anything freaky like that happen to them in the Bahamas. Write it in the comments. I want to know. I would not take the trip there again. At least I wouldn't stay there, and I wouldn't take the trip there with just us two. But anyway, that's my story. It was a lot scarier when it happened, but we're safe. Thank God.
I just stopped my hike because I heard really freaky noises, and I think I just should talk about it. For reference, I'm at a place that I've been plenty of times before. I come here with my dog by myself all the time. I think I've only come here with someone else like twice. Every time I come here, I'm by myself. Now that I'm saying this, I do remember seeing this guy that was being kind of weird one time when I was here with my friend, but he was all the way out in the woods, like 5 miles into the woods. Today, I was just going like 1.5 miles into the woods because I was going to my favorite creek, but the creek bed dried up, so I was just walking in it by myself. I didn't bring my dog today, it was just me. And I've been hiking here enough to know, like, the noises that are down here. I know that birds and animals make noises. They sometimes make repetitive noises. I am aware of that. I know what they sound like. I'm familiar with the area. But when I was walking, I was about 1 mile into the woods, hadn't seen anybody, hadn't heard anybody. I'm just by myself way out in the woods. I'm deep in the woods. And I hear this clapping noise, and I'm like, that's weird. I've never heard an animal make a noise like that before. So I stopped. Didn't hear it again, so I was like, okay, so I kept going. Heard it again, and it was a little bit louder. But I realized it was coming like across the creek from where I heard it the first time, like somebody clapping back to the first noise. So I immediately was just like, this is weird, but am I being paranoid? Like, watch a lot of true crime, you know, whatever. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. I was trying to be a tough girl about it, but it happened again. And I know that there are like woodpeckers and birds and animals that make noise that sounds like clapping, but this was a human clap. It was a human clap. And from what it sounded like, it was one person clapping on one side of the creek and another person clapping on the other side of the creek, like back and forth to each other. I've watched enough true crime and TV, probably too much at this point, to know that I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. So I immediately turned around and came back to my car. And that's the whole experience. And maybe I'm being dramatic, but I am not trying to fucking die in the middle of Bloomington where other girls have gone missing and never been found. So I don't know, I'm just really freaked out sitting in my car and felt like I should share that because just be aware of your surroundings, especially if you're a woman hiking alone. I usually bring my dog, but today I just wanted to like play in the creek and play with the rocks, and I feel bad when I'm not playing with him, so I just came by myself, which I usually never do. This honestly might be the first time I've ever been here without my dog. And it is the last time I will ever be here without my dog.
Get ready with me while I tell you a story time on a very traumatic event that happened in my life. So when I was in high school, it was between my sophomore and junior year, I went on a trip with my French class to France, and we went to multiple countries, but France was like the biggest one. When we were traveling like between towns, we were going to like this small town in France on like the countryside, and we had to stay in this awful little hotel. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere. It was cute, but nobody spoke any English. So we luckily had our French teacher with us. I spoke a little bit of French, but not enough to really understand everything everyone was saying, because French people talk really fast. Well, we had a curfew to be back in our rooms by 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Well, my friend that I was staying with, that was in the same room as me, we were fighting over a boy. we had a little bit of an altercation. She got upset, and it was, mind you, past our curfew. We went to the girls' room that was like directly upstairs, but the stairs were like 5 rooms past us. So we were already out past curfew, and so she got upset with me, so she went into the other girls' room. Well, I'm not very smart. I wasn't at the time, and I followed her up the stairs. So I put a shoe in the door. There was nobody else in our room at the time, so that's okay, don't worry. And I went upstairs to find her because I knew that we had just gotten into an argument and I didn't want to like be upset going to sleep. So I went upstairs, I found the room, we went in, we talked, we chatted, everything was great. I decided, I was like, okay, it's time to go to bed. Are you coming with me? Are you staying here? Like, do whatever you want, but I'm going to sleep. So she was like, no, I'm going to stay here. Actually, I'm going to stay up here and I'm going to hang out with them. So she closes the door and I'm walking towards the steps. It's about, again, 5 rooms away from the steps, and about 8 rooms past the steps, 8 or 9, something like that. There was these, like, I think there was 2 men. It's really hard for me to remember. It was so long ago, but there was a group of men, and they were standing in a doorway, and they talked to me in French, and I acted like I didn't know French at the time. And then they were like, oh, are you from America? Do you speak English? And they seemed to be from a different country, not France. And it was like a big group of them. Well, I ignored them and started walking down the stairs. Well, when I walked down the stairs, they started following me. And when I turned around, there were 2 men actually chasing me down the stairs. Come back for part 2.
Yesterday, I had a pretty scary encounter as a solo female traveler, and I want to tell you about it. If you don't know, I live in my cutie little school bus, and I live in it full time. I've been living in it since about May, and I run my marketing consulting business for small businesses as I travel the country. My boyfriend is with me on and off, but one of the most common questions that I get is, do I feel safe living by myself in a vehicle on the road? And yesterday was really one of the first instances that I had that I really felt unsafe as a solo female. I was on a pretty major highway for about 12 hours. It was like cross country. We were on one major highway, and I was on it for a long time, and a semi-truck was definitely sticking by me on the highway for a long time. I didn't think anything of it until he started honking, waving, and trying to engage with me. When I didn't really engage back, he decided to stick a gas station cup out the window that said like a gas station, pointed at it, and pointed at the next exit, motioning to me to meet him at that gas station at the next exit. Obviously, I did not get off of that exit. I kept driving, but what he did once he did that was he slowed way down and got behind me to wait to see if I got off of that exit. Once I didn't, he didn't as well. This thing only goes about 55 miles an hour, so it's not like I can zoom away from people. So what I decided to do was just drive really slow, and I wanted to watch him in front of me. But what he would do is he would speed up, he would slow down just to stick around wherever I was on the highway for at least 150 miles. Once he was in front of me for a while, what I decided to do was get off of an exit and stop and get gas when I knew he passed me on the highway. When I did that, when I got back on the highway, he was pulled over with his hazards on the highway waiting for me to pass him. It's a pretty identifiable vehicle. He knew when I passed, he put his blinker on and got right back behind me, honked, waved, just so I knew that he was back. During this whole situation, I did not engage with him. I didn't wave at him. I did not have any motion towards anything towards him. I just tried to kind of keep driving and keep going. Once he was waiting for me, I did decide to call the police, and the state troopers basically said, once a state trooper passes you, he'll wave at you and then get behind that semi-truck and get off of the next exit, wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then get back on. Once I did that, I stopped, got gas, got some food. I got back on the highway, pretty scared about it because I didn't want to pass him and then him know that I did just call the police, and make him even more enraged. I never saw the vehicle again. So I don't know what ended up happening with it, but the whole situation had me really, really rattled for 200 to 300 miles, which was hours of my day yesterday. It's one of those instances that it makes your skin crawl, but it also is just so infuriating that I can be driving down the middle of the highway and I can still be at risk of something that I don't even know about. I don't know what his motive was. I don't know what would have happened if I would have pulled over, if anything negative even would have happened, but it just didn't seem like a good situation, and it made me really upset that this is just something that can happen. I share this to answer the common question of, do I feel safe? In general, I do feel very safe. Especially, I feel safer in a campground by myself than I do, driving down the middle of the highway, which sucks. But I do generally feel very safe in my bus driving by myself. But of course, there are bad apples everywhere you go. It's too bad that we have to worry about things like this, but it is something that is always on my mind when I am traveling by myself. I did take, the precautions of taking defense classes before I left, so I have a little bit of knowledge, but when push came to shove, who knows what really would happen in an actual situation. So I share this to answer a common question. I share this to tell you to be safe, and to share another example of something that can happen while you're on the road.
I believe that somebody tried to either kidnap and or traffic me last Friday on the train. And after talking to a few friends and thinking about it, I decided I wanted to share a video about what happened because I feel like it could maybe help people notice things that maybe they wouldn't notice and hopefully save somebody's life. I don't know. Or maybe I'm baking it all up and someone could ease my mind. But so far it seems like everyone thinks that maybe someone was trying to do something shady. So I was taking the train around 10 p.m. on Friday night from New York City to Philly. And this woman was behind me. She was holding 2 cups of tea from Starbucks. And people were trying to get their bags up to the top, and they were blocking the aisle. So I stopped to let them get situated. And she kind of knocked into me a little bit. She was looking around me. And I just looked back and I was like, hey, I'm still gonna go. I'm just waiting for these people and then I'm gonna keep going. And she was like, okay, cool. So I'm walking down the aisle looking for a seat, and I notice an empty row, and this is the first one that I've seen at this point. I've gone through 3 cars and they all have at least one person in each row. So I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna snag this window seat. And she hops in right behind me and she was like, oh my god, how did you find that? That's crazy. And I was like, I don't know, I feel really lucky, but I guess we're seatmates now. And she was like, yeah, we're friends. Do you want some tea? And I was like, why do you have an extra cup of tea? And she was like, well, I bought 2 in case I made a friend on the train, or maybe I wanted 2 cups. I don't know. She was like, I'm just random like that. And I was like, okay, what's in it? And she told me, and I was like, yeah, I actually would like a cup of tea. It sounded really good. So at this point, I had woken up at 3 a.m. or 3:30 in the morning, taken the train to New York, worked a photo shoot for 12 hours, and I was exhausted. So the idea of having a nice little cup of tea and then falling asleep on the train was pretty exciting. So I take a sip and then I'm like, what am I doing? I can't drink this tea from a stranger. So I don't know. I was exhausted, maybe less tired, desperate version of myself would have passed on it to begin with, but whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just pretend that I'm drinking the tea because I don't want to that I can't give it back to her now that my mouth has been on it. I don't know. This is kind of weird now. So then she's like, let's take a selfie. I want to show my friend that I made a friend on the train. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm obviously not worried about putting my face out in the world. I make TikToks, I'm on Instagram, whatever. So she does that, and I don't really think much of it. People do that kind of stuff all the time. And she starts telling me about how she is taking the train from New York to Philly, and then Philly to Baltimore, and then Baltimore to Norfolk to meet her other half who works at a cruise line. And she said that she hadn't seen him for 9 months. And I was like, wow, oh my God, like, is he gonna do that forever? Or is this like a temporary thing? And she was like, no, he's done after this year. I can't take it anymore. He's got to move up to New York and be with me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's amazing. And then she's like plugging her phone in like across me. So like her like phone cord's across me. And she asks me to Google, like, to help her figure out her train situation, like Philly to Baltimore. And I'm like, you clearly have a phone in your hand. Like, you just took a selfie with me. It's obviously charging. And she was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, my search isn't working. And at that point, I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. So I said no. And I said that, like, my service wasn't working either, which wasn't a lie because we were, like, in a tunnel at the time. And just kind of like moved on. I was just kind of like, if she wants to figure this out, like she can figure it out herself. I don't really understand why she wants me to Google this for her. But then I started feeling guilty and I was like, oh, maybe like she's not as like good with technology or something. So I was like reading my book and then just kind of like put my phone in my book and just like looked things up a little bit. And then I just said to her, I was like, oh yeah, like I looked it up for you. And I actually think it would be easier or better for you to just take the train to DC and then to Norfolk. I think that would be faster and easier if like your budget's not the issue. And she was like, okay, cool, thanks. And then like at some point she's just like, do you live alone? Like not like asking about my life, like chit-chatting like very directly, do you live alone? Which was like the biggest red flag, or like the first time where I was like, okay, this is like really shady. Like all of these red flags are adding up to what the fuck is going on. I'm really glad I didn't drink this tea. So, I was like, no, I live with my spouse. And then I like talk about like how much I love him and all this stuff. And she was like, that's so amazing. Like, you're so lucky to have someone you love like that. And I was like, yeah, I really am. I'm so grateful. So now I'm like texting him still in my book so that she can't see what I'm doing because I'm like suspicious. And I'm like, I think I'm getting trafficked. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So he like sends me the Amtrak like trafficking number and I text it and I never get a text back. And I'm like, what do I do? I was like feeling weird about getting up because I didn't want to like let on that I had like suspicions about her. So I'm just like reading my book and texting him. And now she has a second phone out and she's taking selfies and she's like angling it in like crazy ways. And it's clearly on Snapchat and she's got like filters on her face. And every time I turn my head to see if I'm like in the photos, because of like the way she's angling it feels like it's like pointing towards me, she turns the angle of the phone. I'm like, what is going on? So then my spouse calls me and I like very loudly, I'm like, okay, cool. So you're gonna meet me like on the platform, right? And he was like, should I? And I'm like trying to have this like fake conversation with him to like make it like very obvious to everyone around me that he's going to be meeting me at the train. And then ultimately, like, he does decide to take an Uber to come meet me at the train because we were just like, this is just going to be like the safest option, just in case this is true. So at that point, I'm like really struggling to stay awake and wondering, is it because I'm really tired or was there really something in that tea and just that one little sip was like affecting me? So I'm really starting to get nervous and I'm like keeping to myself, just like reading my book. And she like gives me a high five when we get off the train, when the train gets into the station. And I noticed someone noticed that we high fived. And I was like, this is weird. So I like hold back a little bit to like get space between us. And there's a good like 15, 20 people between us. And by the time I get back onto the track to exit up to the train station, she had doubled back to like ask the conductor a question and happens to be like one person ahead of me again. I was like, this just feels so suspicious. So whatever, I end up getting off of the train. I find my partner and my friend who came to meet me. I like beeline to them. And I just like hung around the station for a little bit and explained to the police, like the Amtrak police, what happened. And he basically said, if I ever felt that way again, or if anyone feels that way again, you should get up, pretend you're going to the bathroom, find a conductor and tell them what's going on. Even if like you might be wrong, it's just better to be safe that way and let them handle it. And then they'll let the officers at the station know that that you're coming, and to like make sure that you get to where you're going safely. Yeah, so that's the story, and it was wild, and I'm glad I'm safe, and be careful out there.